Hello students, welcome back to your favorite channel, EME Education Made Easier, a channel just for you. And today I'm here with the much awaited video on The Tale of Custard the Dragon. It's a beautiful poem written by Ogden Nash. So let me tell you something about the poet. This poem has been written by Frederick Ogden Nash, and he was an American poet, famous for his light verse, means his work was humorous actually. And he received Sarah Josephine Hale Award in 1964. So the first stanza of the poem goes like this. This opening stanza introduces the characters in the poem. Belinda, the owner of a small white house, had 4 pets. Among these pets were a small black kitten, a small mouse of grey color, a small yellow dog, and a real true dragon. Belinda also had a small wagon of red color. The words realio and trulio have been used for really and truly. They prepare the reader for an element of humor in the poem. In the second stanza, the poet introduces the characters. The poet tells that the little black kitten was named Ink and the tiny mouse was given the name Blink. The little dog of yellow color was Sharp and was therefore called Mustard, which is known for its sharp, pungent taste. So you have those yellow color mustard flowers, right? They have sharp and pungent taste and color. And the dragon, who was a timid, weak creature, was called Custard because of his cowardice. Then we move to the third stanza, where the poet gives a description of the appearance of Custard, the dragon. His looks, like those of any dragon, were fierce, as he had big teeth, which were not only big but also sharp. On the top of his body there were spikes, and he also had scales. The poet uses similes to describe the fierce appearance of the dragon, and his fiery red mouth appeared to be breathing out fire like a furnace, and the nose was big and sharp like a chimney. His nails on the toes were sharp like daggers. The poet has coined the word realio and trulio for really and truly to give a comic effect to the poem. Then the fourth stanza describes certain characteristics of the inmates of the White House. Belinda, the owner of the house, was so brave that her bravery matched that of a large number of bears put together in a barrel in an alternative way. The poet tells that Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears. Both the kitten Ink and the mouse Blink were brave enough not to feel afraid of a lion. They could give a chase to lions. The dog Mustard, for his bravery, was comparable to a tiger in anger. But the dragon, Custard, was a weak, timid and comfort-loving creature who always demanded a nice, safe and secure cage. Both the bravery of the cat and the mouse and the cowardice of the dragon are exaggerated for the sake of humor. When we reach to stanza 5, we see that Belinda, who had a bad opinion about the dragon Custard and considered him to be a coward, used to tickle him too much. So much tickling verged on cruelty. The other pets, the cat, the mouse and the dog, used to make fun of him jokingly, calling him Percival, who was the legendary brave knight among the Round Table Knights of King Arthur. Belinda and the 3 pets used to sit in the red wagon that Belinda owned. They used to laugh at Custard the dragon for being so afraid all the time. In stanza 6, Belinda used to laugh so loudly at the cowardice of the dragon Custard that her laughter shook the whole house. Blink the mouse also laughed at him. When Custard demanded a comfortable and safe cage to live in, Ink and Mustard made fun of him by asking him how old he was that he was scared of every little thing, meaning thereby that he behaved like a baby. The poet exaggerates the impact of the loud laughter of Belinda to create humor. In stanza 7, one day all the inmates of the White House heard an evil, frightening sound at which Mustard, the dog, sensing trouble, stared growling. The cat Ink mewed, and Belinda cried out of fear. In fact, all of them were terrified to see a pirate climbing into the house through a window. The stanza shows that the brags of bravery by Belinda, Ink, Blink, and Mustard proved to be hollow when face to face with the pirate. In the 8th stanza, the pirate had a very fierce and frightening appearance. He carried a pistol in each hand and a small shining sword between his teeth. He supported a black beard and was crippled, for one of his legs was wooden. His sinister appearance indicated that he had evil intentions. At that terrifying sight of the pirate, Belinda was so much frightened that she cried for help, but Mustard, instead of coming to her help, ran away, crying with fear. Ink also failed to show any bravery as he fled to hide himself in the basement of the house. Blink too proved to be coward and found a shelter in a hole instead of chasing the pirate. The stanza shows that the cat, the mouse, and the dog, who always boasted of their bravery, were actually timid and weak. This particular stanza is full of poetic devices. It shows that, very contrary to his reputation as a coward, Custard the dragon faced the wicked-looking pirate very bravely. He snorted loudly, producing a loud sound like that of an engine. He struck the floor with his tail, producing a sound like that of iron chains hitting against each other in a prison. Making sharp, loud, ringing sounds, he twisted his body in order to attack the pirate, just as a robin bird pounces upon a worm. Moving on to next stanza. When Custard the dragon charged at the pirate, the latter stared at him and was so stricken with fear that he took out the bottle of drink from his pocket to consume some of it to overcome his fear. He shot 2 bullets at the dragon, but was so nervous and afraid that his bullets missed the aim. The dragon mustered all his courage, killed him, and ate up every part of the pirate's body. In this stanza, Belinda realized that the dragon was the most courageous of her pets and had encountered the pirate fearlessly, saving Belinda and her pets. She hugged him out of love and gratitude. The dog Mustard appreciated his bravery by licking him. Nobody lamented the death of the pirate who had fallen a victim to the fierceness of the dragon. The cat and the mouse were so delighted that they ran around the dragon in circles, who was busy eating the flesh of the pirate. Now we see that the dog, the cat, and the mouse of Belinda, even after their cowardly behavior, kept bragging about their bravery. The dog Mustard said that he would have shown bravery twice that of Custard if he had not been agitated. The cat and the mouse too remarked that they would have shown thrice the bravery of the dragon, but Custard, who had proved himself to be the bravest through his fearless deed, refrained from boasting and modestly remarked that all the others in the group were braver than him. In the 14th stanza, after the incident of the pirate breaking into the house and being killed by the dragon, Belinda still lives in the White House with her pets as she lived earlier. There is the black kitten Ink, the grey mouse Blink, the yellow dog Mustard, and her really truly pet dragon Custard. Belinda still has the red wagon. This stanza is a repetition of the opening stanza and it gives unity to the poem. It also shows that life for Belinda and her pets has returned to normalcy after the pirate incident. The last stanza of the poem. Repeating the 4th stanza, here the poet satirically remarks that Belinda has the bravery equal to that a number of bears. Ink and Blink are considered to be brave enough to be able to give a chase to the lions down the stairs. Mustard's bravery may be compared to that of an angry tiger, and Custard the dragon still longs for the comfort of a nice, safe cage. Here, the satire is obvious as the cat, the mouse, and the dog have cut a sorry figure at the critical hour when their help is needed. But Custard, considered to be timid-hearted like a baby, has displayed exemplary bravery and saved the life of all the inmates by killing the pirate. This stanza shows that Belinda, the cat, the mouse, and the dog are incorrigible braggarts. The dragon, on the other hand, is modest. After the pirate incident, the remark about Belinda and her pets are ironical. Now let's move to the literary devices used in the poem. The rhyme scheme of the poem. The poem consistently follows the same rhyme scheme as it has 4 lines in each stanza. So the rhyme scheme that the poem has followed is AABB, but in the last 2 lines of the 13th stanza, as it has 6 lines in that particular stanza, the rhyme scheme is AABBCC. Then the poet has used alliteration, and there are many examples of alliteration. Alliteration, as you know, is the occurrence of the same sound at the beginning of the adjacent or closely connected words. So the first example is Belinda lived in a little white house. Here the sound of L is being repeated. Then we have Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears. The B sound is being repeated here. And then we have the H sound being repeated in and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. Then we also have with a clatter and a clang. The sound of K and L is being repeated. Then we have the last sentence, that is, he gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. So the sound of G has been repeated in this line. Then we also see that there are many places where the poet has used simile. And simile, as you all know, makes a comparison showing similarity between 2 things. And there is a use of word like and as. So it is a direct comparison. The first example is, and the little yellow dog was sharp as mustard. So here the poet compares Belinda's dog with mustard because of his sharpness. And mustard seeds also have sharp and pungent taste. So that is why the dog is compared to the mustard. Then the poet says, mouth like a fireplace. So here the mouth of Custard is being compared to the furnace. Then Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears. So here we see that that Belinda's bravery is compared to that of a group of bears. We also see simile where the poet says Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage. So here the bravery of Mustard, the dog, is compared to the bravery of ferociousness of a tiger in anger. Then we also see the loud snorting of Custard is compared to the sound of an engine. Clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. The tail of the dragon is compared to the chains in prison. Then the poet says, he went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. The attack of Custard on the pirate is compared to that of the bird robin on a worm. Then the next literary device that the poet has used is metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that is used to compare 2 things, but then it is an indirect comparison. For example, chimney for a nose. So here the poet compares the dragon's nose with a chimney because it juts out sharply like a chimney, and no word of comparison like or as has been used here. And the poet also says, and realio trulio, daggers on his toes. Here the poet compares the sharp nails of the toes of the dragon to daggers without using the words like or as. Then the poet has also used repetition. Poets often repeat single words or phrases, lines, sometimes even the whole stanzas at intervals to create a musical effect. The first example of repetition is that the word little has been used around 6 times in stanza 1, 3 times in stanza 2, and 6 times in stanza 13 to emphasize that the white house of Belinda and all its inmates were small in size. It also makes the lines musical and lyrical. The second example is Belinda tickled him, she tickled him unmerciful. So here the repetition of the word tickled shows the repeated action of tickling. Then in the last stanza, as brave as is used twice to mock at the false bravery of Belinda and the mustard. Then we also have the example like suddenly they heard a nasty sound. So the word suddenly has been repeated to emphasize that the sound heard by everyone was sudden and unexpected. Then there is the self-coined words, that is realio trulio. They have been repeated 4 times in the complete poem. first and the fourth stanza appear at the end of the poem once again with change in the tense to show that life still goes on without any change for Belinda and her pets. However, the repetition has been used as an irony, underlying it as it emphasizes the incorrigible nature of Belinda and her pets. Then the poet has also used anaphora, and anaphora is a literary device in which the writer repeats the same beginning of a clause or a sentence, chiefly with the purpose of emphasizing on the repeated elements. So we see that in stanza 1, lines 3 and 4 begin with and in stanza 2, lines 2 and 3 begin with and the little. Then we also have allusion in the poem. Allusion means an indirect reference or suggestion. So it may be regarding a person, place, thing or idea of historical, mythological significance. So we see the line that says, ink, blink and mustard, they rudely called him Percival. So here is a reference of the legendary knight Percival, one of the knights of King Arthur, who was renowned for his strength and fighting prowess. The poet alludes to Percival to mock at the cowardly demand of the dragon for a nice, safe cage. The contrast makes the poem humorous. Then we also see the use of onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a figure of speech in which words imitate the sound or sounds they describe. So, for example, and Blink said weak. So here the poet uses the word weak to describe the sound the mouse makes while giggling. Then we also have the phrase, mewage, cried ink. So mewage is the sense of mewing of a cat. Then we read the sentence with a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm. So the words clatter, clank, jangling give the impression of a metallic object hitting the floor or another object. The next literary device that the poet has used is poetic license. We have already done it in many of the poems, and it is a convention that allows a poet to take the liberty with language by changing the spellings or violating grammatical rules, right? So the example of poetic license is Anna Realio Trulio Little Pet Dragon. Here really and truly words have been replaced by the words realio and trulio. So they are coined words by the poet. Then we also see, for there was a pirate climbing in the window. So here the spelling of window has been changed to winda to make it rhyme with Belinda. So these are the two places where poetic license has been used by the poet. Then we also see exaggeration. Exaggeration is when you make something worse or better than it really is. So it's basically used to create humor or to emphasize something. You can also call it overstatement. For example, Belinda giggled till she shook the house. So here, giggling of Belinda is shown to shake the house, which is an overstatement. And then we also see, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. So the bravery of Ink, the cat, and Blink, the mouse, is exaggerated as they are shown to be fiercely chasing lions. Then we also have transferred epithet used by the poet. Transferred epithet is a poetic device in which an adjective is used not with the noun which it normally qualifies, but with some other noun. For example, but Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Here it is not the cage that is to be safe, but the dragon. The adjective safe is transferred from the dragon to the cage here. Then we also see, but Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. So here it is Mustard the dog who is terrified at the sight of the pirate, not the yelp. So the epithet terrified has been transferred from Mustard to yelp. That is why this is known as transferred epithet. That's all for today. In case of any doubts or queries, you can drop us a message on Instagram, or you can also drop them in the comment section below. I'll revert to them as soon as possible. See you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.